You know, in this world of growing AI intelligence, there's one thing that AI cannot enjoy and they fear. Tea. Why do they fear it, you ask? Well, have you ever successfully seen a robot drink tea before? And no, Bicentennial Man does not count. But I digress. Today I want to take some time to talk about the future of the entertainment industry, specifically keying in on film, animation, and the music industries. Now, these are just my perspectives, but regardless, I want to share them. Now, in a previous episode, we talked about the reboot culture inside of Hollywood and how we've been stuck in a loop of franchises that will never end. Sorry, I need some more tea. But to start off this episode, I wanted to talk about the importance of balance between creativity and cash flow in an entertainment industry. If you don't have money to be able to make a creative work come to life, it's not going anywhere. You need the cash in order to be able to actually make the thing come to life. On the other hand, we've got to be creative too. We've got to allow new creative ideas that don't suck to be able to see the light of day. Just recently, I heard that Netflix was shutting down yet another fan-loved series after one season. Now, I haven't personally watched it, but this seems to be a recurring theme. And this speaks to the importance of creativity, but also cash flow. I don't know all the backstory behind this cancellation, but this is a creative work that people really liked. And it seems kind of silly that they're shutting it down so early. Now, it could have just not made fiscal sense anymore. I don't really know. But either way, having this be something that's been happening over and over again doesn't build trust in Netflix with its audience. But we've got to be able to have creativity. And we can't just be so focused on creativity. We have to be able to make money too. Every entertainment business needs to be able to make money. Money is what makes things happen in entertainment. It's just the reality of things. If you want to have high quality entertainment, you have to have money. And there's got to be a middle ground here between creativity and financial prosperity. And I want to talk about some of my thoughts here in just a second. But Netflix has done a really great job in some ways of making really creative properties while also being extremely prosperous. I mean, you look at things like Stranger Things, which is totally fresh, made lots of money, and really was able to find a middle ground between both of those things. And there have been lots of other shows and films that have been able to do this as well. And so we know it's possible. We know it's possible to be able to create something that is really awesome and masterful while also being able to help make the entertainment studio lots and lots of money so they can continue to make awesome creative things. Now, I know that streaming services like Netflix and others, they're following a lot of statistics. They're looking at how their users are watching what they have on their platforms. And I'm sure that they're using all of that information to the best of their ability to be able to know what people want to watch, or guess what people want to watch, I should say. But one thing I don't know why is not being implemented on these platforms very well is giving opportunity for user feedback. Now, maybe some of this has to do with the fact that it is almost impossible to try to process and input so much feedback from people. But now that may be changing. With the world of AI at our fingertips, we can process and assimilate and understand information way faster than before. And so one of the things that I would love to see that maybe I could be a part of building in the future would be a streaming platform that allows users to be able to give feedback on what they're watching, what they liked, what they didn't like, so that we can understand what to change in the future. And not that we should completely follow what the audience wants, because a lot of times the audience doesn't know what they want. But it helps us to understand what they're enjoying and what they're not enjoying. And that can be something that shows us what maybe we need to work on and what maybe we need to just kind of let go, and that's just how they felt about it. But at least it's information, it's feedback. And good heavens, with all of the crowdfunding that's been going on lately, I don't understand why these streaming services aren't putting up their potential show ideas. They don't have to give away their secrets, but if they can put up some of their show ideas before they actually put them into production, engage audience interest by putting together a little trailer or something, then they don't have to waste a bunch of money on projects that don't seem like they're going to go anywhere. Now, I understand that marketing goes into a lot of this. And if you're going to spend money on marketing, that you might as well put money into the project. I totally get that. But there's got to be a way for people that are really bought in to helping these streaming services to be able to make things that they can have a voice in doing this. And I don't know if that could be like a higher tiered subscription plan where you actually get to have input on what's going to be made, or at least give some feedback and kind of gauge some of the upcoming projects. You're not telling the streaming service what to do. They can take and do with the information what they want, but at least it's information. And since when is information a bad thing? Especially if you can get people bought into being a part of the process and they're willing to spend a little bit of extra money on that. And I'm not saying that to be manipulative, but that helps you to know that the people that are paying for that are really invested in giving good feedback. Now, there are limitations to getting feedback from the people that are watching. A lot of people do not understand good ideas when they hit them in the face. I'm not saying everybody. A lot of people don't know how to push the boundaries. A lot of times people just kind of regurgitate what they've seen in the past. And so when you're trying to be creative and groundbreaking, sometimes people aren't going to get it. And that's okay. And so you have to be able to balance getting feedback and hearing what they might be saying and some things that they might be picking up on, even if that's not what they're saying, while balancing that out with being creative and just letting loose. And there's been some platforms that have kind of already set the stage for this to some degree, like Kickstarter, Patreon. And if you guys have ever watched The Chosen, which is one of the largest crowdfunded shows in history, it lives on Angel Studios, which is a platform that kind of does some of this. Now, their whole business is built around crowdfunding, which may not be the worst idea in the world. But either way, I really think that the industry is kind of pushing in this direction because people want personalized content that they believe in, that they connect with. And with AI coming into the picture, we may see more personalized content than ever. Now, with the content being more personalized, there may be a lot of junk out there. I hope not, but I'm just saying. And I believe it's so important that there are creators that are creating more wholesome content out there. Now, I'm not talking about content that is soft, that doesn't push boundaries or anything like that. But what I'm talking about is content that ultimately encourages people to be good. Now, while I don't think all content should be preachy or should push a message or an agenda, I do think it's really important for our content to promote healthy relationships and that encourages people to make good choices in their lives. Now, sometimes the way that we promote healthy relationships is by showing bad ones as well. So this is by no means me saying that we need to completely filter our content, because quite honestly, it just makes it unreal. It makes it not seem relatable or real at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is we should definitely create more content that ultimately leads to lifting up healthy relationships and that encourages people to do good things in their lives. And this is because entertainment does affect people's behavior and attitudes. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a movie and I got done and I felt like on the inside that part of me was like the lead character of that movie. We all kind of do this, I think. I think we put ourselves into the place of the characters and the entertainment that we watch. And it has a tendency to kind of rub off on us. And so I think it's really important to be careful about glorifying negative behaviors and bad attitudes. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that we shouldn't show those things. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be a part of the stories that we're telling. But what I am saying is we should just be careful and conscientious that we're not leading people to destruction. I think that's kind of fair. But we definitely should have people inside of our stories that struggle with different issues. And sometimes they should be likable. Maybe a lot of times they should be likable. Now, that being said, entertainment shouldn't all be about some ideological messaging or anything like that. I personally feel like modern entertainment is often a little too preachy. And I'm not just talking about religious entertainment. I'm talking about like general market entertainment as well. sometimes entertainment just should be fun. Sometimes I want to watch something and not feel like it's some sort of a lesson on how I should believe something that somebody else believes. Now, there is a place for that. I think that people can do that. I think that's fine, but I don't think we should do it all the time. And I know that there's so much pressure being put on people to make sure that we're representing certain people and that we're having diversity in our storytelling and that we stand up for issues that are right or sometimes right. And there can be a place for that, but not all the time. There should be a balance in entertainment, just like there's balance in a relationship. I don't have serious discussions and talks with my wife all the time. We don't talk to each other intimately all the time. Sometimes we just have fun and laugh. And our entertainment should be the same way. When you are making entertainment, you're building a relationship with your audience. And if it's constantly serious in tone, or every single movie that you make has to have some sort of ideological messaging in it, then you might be taking things just a little too seriously. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't take life seriously, and there are serious topics, but just like any relationship, if you only talk about serious stuff, then your relationship is going to suffer. And I'm not trying to go into relationship counseling with y'all, but this is true. And this is especially true for entertainment. And so we need to have a balance between fun and messaging. It's important to have both, but you have to balance it. And I know that people from all different kinds of walks of life get tired of watching things that have subtle preaching mixed into them when sometimes they just want to watch something fun. I also want to talk about the need for creative new ideas inside of the film and TV industry. So if you guys don't know this already, I love anime. We find some of the most creative and innovative worlds, characters, and storytelling in anime. Now, I know not everybody's into cartoons and not everybody's into anime, but what I'm saying is true. And a lot of our entertainment, especially here in America, I feel like suffers from, well, a lack of creativity. One of the things that I think anime does really well is they generally try to keep to a story. And if that's only a 3-season long story, they keep to that. And once it's done, it's done. And I'm not talking about all anime. There are bad anime. Another thing anime does really well is pacing. They take time to show beautiful landscapes. They take time to show action. And the pacing reflects each one of those styles. And I love the imaginative worlds and people that anime creators create. Now, some of this is allowed because of the medium. You're allowed to show more unique worlds without having to spend a bunch of money on effects because it's animated. You can't always do that inside of the TV film realm. But there is a refreshing storytelling that happens in anime that doesn't happen in a lot of other types of entertainment. I love the humor. I think the humor is fresh. I think it's unique. Anime doesn't take itself very seriously most of the time. And another thing that kind of comes into anime is the cultural difference between a lot of the stuff we see in America. I think that's part of the appeal of it. And this is where it is important to have diverse perspectives and people from different walks of life that are writing stories, especially people from other cultures, because other cultures are wonderful and amazing. My culture is wonderful and amazing. We all have something to share and bring to the table when it comes to storytelling. And because of that, it can create a whole bunch of new and interesting narratives that we've never seen before. And we have seen a lot of influence from the anime industry coming into film and TV. But in general, anime still hasn't hit as a mainstream thing yet. It's really close, and I think here in the near future, it is going to be mainstream. But right now, we're not quite there yet. But my point with all of that is, it's important for us to take some cues from successful industries and to pull that into film and television and other industries so that we can see what works and what doesn't work, and to just try new things. Another thing I want to talk about concerning all this is just bringing wonder back to our storytelling. And this all comes back into more wholesome content. This kind of content brings wonder and inspiration and imagination into what we're making. Creating wonder is all about suspending disbelief in the audience. It's about engaging the audience's imagination. And we can do that through so many different ways, whether that's through creating unique worlds, whether that's through stunning visuals that we've never seen before, new visual styles that we haven't experienced before. I think of content from over decades. You have stuff like Star Wars or Star Trek or Samurai Jack, or even going into video games, Final Fantasy. There's so many different works and franchises that have created wonder in the audience. And people sit there and imagine, what would it be like to be in this time or to be in this place? And they think of all sorts of stories because those properties inspire imagination in the audience. And that's something amazing to try to capture. And I think that it's important for us to start imagining again, because imagination sparks imagination. Speaking of imagination, I want to talk about reimagining the music industry. For the longest time, the music industry was run by record labels and studios. And I think in the modern age, the roles of artists and record labels and studios are changing a bit. And this has a lot to do with the accessibility of technology, and there's so many more independent artists than there used to be, and online streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music making music accessible like never before. And not only that, but independent artists have a unique ability now to be able to get their music out to a large market in a matter of just a few clicks. And this is a totally new experience. Traditionally, record labels would be a part of actually getting an artist's music out there and promoted and giving them the funds and the money that they need in order to make the project happen. But things are different now. The cost of recording has come down, and artists can do a lot of that stuff themselves now. Just recently, I actually released one of my own songs, my first single, Can't Help But Dance, and I'm an independent artist. And it was a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, it is amazing how accessible everything has become. But independent artists do have challenges in today's music industry. Some of those challenges are marketing, which goes along with promotion, and having the funds in order to make a high quality project. Now, those challenges have answers. Artists can get their music out there through social media. They can make a high quality product, but not without incredible work, and sometimes, most of the time, still quite a bit of money. And those are legitimate challenges. On the other hand, record labels have their own issues. Traditional marketing is still kind of working. Radio is still working, but they're having to try to find new ways to get their artists' music in front of people that seems genuine and relatable. And TikTok has changed a lot of this too. And now more than ever, record labels and independent artists are on a lot more of an even level when it comes to promoting music on platforms like TikTok. Now, money still goes a long way, and they're able to really help boost their artists using money and connections. But I think in the future, record labels might be changing, and how they're working with artists may change. Like, how different would it be to see a record label that, rather than focusing on fronting the money, what if that was a little different? What if record labels offered administrative services to artists in a subscription package that artists could purchase? This would allow the artists to be able to have some of the tools that the record labels are offering, and it also gives the record labels another set of income if they wanted. Now, they don't have to open this up to everybody. Maybe artists would have to prove that they have enough of a following in order to actually access these tools. And then from there, the record labels can actually look at the statistics of each one of the artists and really see which ones are succeeding and which ones aren't. And then they could decide whether they wanted to invest in one artist over another. This is a way smarter way to get the artists on your team that are going to help the studio to make money, or the record label. And then on the other hand, this gives the artists a little more freedom as well, because they're kind of contracting the record label. But just think about the potential. Now, on the other hand, record labels don't want to waste resources on artists that aren't going to go anywhere. But I think there can be a beneficial relationship in seeing some of this stuff change potentially. And these are just my thoughts. Also, in the future, with AI on the rise, we're going to see personalized music like never before. We're already seeing AI playlists being built in Spotify, and I can only guess that music is going to be even more personalized for each individual as we go into the future. And I'm sure that the different companies are going to make ways for advertisers to be able to market their artists because they still need money. But my guess is, as people are liking and wanting more authentic content and connection with the artists, that we may see that top-down marketing is not going to work as well. And this is already kind of happening. We're seeing pop artists on TikTok that are building a following there, and people love being connected to the artists. And so record labels really have to work with the artists themselves rather than throwing a bunch of money at everything. They may need to rely more on the artist actually making a personal connection with their audience through social media, through videos, through all sorts of other things. Now, some other ways that marketing can happen is just getting the music in front of people, which can happen through incorporating the music into TV shows and movies, which is already kind of happening to some degree. Video games. What if we see artists that are starting to build their brand in other ways? What if we see artists that are acting, that are doing music, and they're able to kind of build a brand around themselves in different ways? I don't know, but I think things are going to be kind of changing as far as what people have to do in order to get attention in this world that is so oversaturated with artists. You got to find a way to stand out. And so overall, I think the music industry is definitely going to go through some changes. You know, we have VR concerts that are totally a thing now, and things are changing. And I would really love to see a little more of a push for people to connect with local artists. How cool would it be if something like Spotify had a way for you to find artists in your local area? You could push a little switch on your thing that said to use your geolocating, and it would be able to get you in connection with artists that are directly in your area. I think that would be super cool and awesome. And what a good way in order to boost the music scene inside of your local area. And this could also be a really cool way to raise up new artists that are gaining a following, but I don't know. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about is the future of the animation industry. Adult television, specifically animated television, is on the rise. And when I say adult animation, I'm talking about animation that is oriented to an adult audience. It's not just kids shows. And this is really awesome because animation gives us a lot more tools than we have inside of TV or film. We don't have to try to change the reality of live action in order to make some groundbreaking world or this cool futuristic effect that we would never see otherwise. In animation, all of that can be created because it's not real. And this allows us to be able to tell stories in really unique ways that are really hard to do in live action. And there's so many successful examples of this. I mean, anime is definitely something that is growing in popularity. My dad loves watching anime. Studios like Pixar. Now, I understand Pixar is a kid's studio, but they create content that is also entertaining to adults. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this, especially with the rise of AI, because it's making a lot of this more accessible. Now, you still have to know how to animate. You still have to know how to make all of these things. But moving into the future, a lot of that may be a lot simpler. And like I said earlier, I really think that animation and anime is going to be seen on equal footing with live action. It is way more popular with my generation and the generation after me than it is with the previous generations. And my generation is moving into being the generation with the most buying power in the United States, probably the whole world. And so I think we are going to see a lot more of this. One company that I definitely think you guys should check out, because they make animated films and they also make live action films, is DC. I have mixed feelings about some of the DC live action offerings. Some of them are good. DCU, some of it was not great. But when you look at DC's animated films, they are all awesome. And they are definitely geared towards an adult audience. But they are really well made. The stories are awesome. And I just like them. And so I think we're going to see some more of that. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but AI is a thing. And like I said, if you're afraid, don't forget your tea. And I really believe AI is going to change everything. I don't even completely know what's all going to change. But I think there's going to be a consolidation of roles and jobs when it comes to animation. And this doesn't mean that artists are being pushed out. I think it's the opposite. We need artists and animators that are able to put their unique touch on things in order for these products to really stand out. The most creative stories and the best visuals will always win as long as they're marketed well enough. And I don't see this as a totally bad thing, guys. The reality is, especially in the anime industry, well, in Japan at least, probably here in the States too, is that a lot of animators are really overworked and underpaid. And a lot of that just has to do with supply and demand. The industry is not huge. It's not as big as Hollywood. And so there's just not as much money to go around. Not to mention that traditional animation takes so much time to do. And so these artists are working for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and they're not getting paid what they're worth. And that's just kind of the reality of where things are at right now. And I think that by having AI come in and simplify the process, animators and artists are going to get paid what they're worth because they can get their jobs done faster and they can be working on more projects at a time. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Imagine a studio being able to put out 3 shows in the time that they were able to do 1. That's insane. And the artists would be definitely getting paid more. Well, if they worked for me, that is. But I definitely want to see this happen because I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about AI, and AI is not going to replace animators and artists. I really think it's going to help to boost what animators and artists are able to do. And that's why I want to learn as much as I can about how all of this works so that I can have a good working picture about how all of this comes together. Now, why do I care about all of these things? Well, I really believe that God has called me to build an entertainment studio that specifically focuses on film, animation, and music. And I want to continue to grow in my understanding of stories, technology that's used in all of these industries, and I want to continue to think creatively about where the future can go in this business. And guys, I really think it's important for us to be able to inspire and encourage people to have healthy relationships and to make good decisions. And I really believe that we can do that, or at least help, through good entertainment. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. Reimagine Entertainment with Josiah Wright is a podcast that's dedicated to empowering artists and creatives on their journey to growth and success. I've been your host, Josiah Wright, and I'm so happy that you joined me today. Keep creating, guys.